Welcome back to Cards and Comics, and today I'm going to be talking about the new eBay Authenticity Guarantee for high value trading cards they just announced on their website, and why it's going to unleash a flood of fake and altered cards on the market. And I'm not saying this because I think it's a prediction. I am very sure this is going to happen. And I'm going to walk through it step by step on why this is such a bad idea. But first, I'm going to walk through the program itself because the program itself has a lot of flaws just in general, even if they could actually stop what they want to stop and do what they intend to do. So, first, what's the program, right? So, they're going to start with $750 value cards. And I don't really know where they're going to get that number at because trading cards don't have static values. So, they're going to go to last sales or average sales. I don't know, but they're going to do something to tell you that your card has to be authenticated before you can sell it. And let's make no mistake, because this video isn't really about money, but I'm going to tell you, this whole program is designed to keep the money in eBay's pocket as long as possible. Anyone who's selling high dollar cards on eBay knows that for any reason they could just freeze your money and want to do more authentication of the account or the process or whatever they're doing and hold your money. They love doing that. And this just gives them more and more reasons to hold your money. So that's I think the true reason they're doing this is just to hold your money longer. And they think they're providing a service to make sports cards easier to buy and sell on their platform without other third-party authentication. Now, we'll get into that as well because there's always people saying things about sports cards in relation to other hobbies that's really silly. But let's get into this program, right? So there's three little bullets here. Professional authenticators, no cost to you, authenticity guarantee. Well, I'm gonna cast doubt on all three of those things. Professional authenticators, no cost, and authenticity, right? Guaranteed. So let's walk through this, right? Oh, no, peace of mind from start to finish, right? So we talked about the third party. They don't really tell you who it is. I don't know why in the first part. No cost to you for a limited time. Dudes, they're going to be charging us money for this at some point. Again, it's a cash grab. This is their way of getting more money into this supply chain and getting more out of it, right? They want to inject themselves in this process, right? And then we take fraud and counterfeit seriously and have your peace of mind in hand, with what we're doing, right? So let's see how it works. We look for the cards with the little blue check mark. The seller ships it. They look at it and they put it in this really cheap ass looking holder for you that you can use for presentation. I love the fact that they think that you're going to keep the holder, right? Because if you look down at some pictures below, you'll see that they actually have this holder like on a mantle with a trophy and a deodorant. I guess I don't know what that is on the left. It's either some sort of like a device or like a big air freshener. But yeah, like that's what everyone does with their cards. They display them like this with a big eBay logo on them. Like this is how out of touch this whole process is for eBay to even go through this, right? This is just dumb from start to finish. Everything about this is bad. Put them on display. This is stupid. All right, so let's go through the program, right? So this whole QR code doesn't mean anything. Your card is verified and authenticated through a multi-point inspection process. Okay, so multi-point process. Okay, if they actually had a real process that was actually scientifically validated, they would be talking a lot more about the process. But we'll get into that a little bit later too. And again, authentication without doubt, and multi-point inspection. We're going to check the corners, the edges, the condition, the surface. None of that guarantees authenticity, and it's not a fake. This is what's so frustrating about this hobby, is that they think that condition means it's real. Like, if the corners are good and the edges are good, then the card's real. It's not. If you get into how fakes are actually done, This is not what you have to look for. And do we have to go back to the baseball card exchange example of them looking at tape to tell what's inside the box is real? It's not what you got to do. You got to go a little deeper, right? And so they don't even understand it by this multi-point inspection. It's just dumb. Again, it's really dumb that this is what they're going for, right? When they're saying this, right? So again, I want to go down further, and really I want to go to the facts, right? So the FAQs. So again, they talk about the $750 limit, eligible items. Okay. So what is eligible for this program, right? This is really key. Ungraded cards. So anything that's graded prior by their approved graders, and it's hilarious if you go to their list of approved graders, unless they've changed it. I looked at it just earlier this week. CSG isn't listed. So the company they're using at one point wasn't even listed as an actual authentic or a grader they actually relied upon as being approved, right? So that was funny. But if you look at, sports trading cards, collectible card games, non-sports trading cards, some crazy value that they're going to tell you. But here's what's not. Sets, lots, kits, boxes, packs. The big ones, patch and jersey, and autograph cards. So a lot of fakes in the hobby in modern cards, because this really is about modern cards. Let's just say that right off the bat. This is a modern card issue they're talking about, right? They're not talking about 1965 Topps cards they want to authenticate. They want to authenticate the millions of modern cards that are flooding eBay that are kind of selling ungraded, because in all honesty, you don't really need to grade a lot of those cards, to ensure that the card is, a pretty good grade, 8, 9, or 10, right? That's, 99% of all modern sports cards are usually in that grade. So, they want a piece of that action because that's what they want to, that's what they want to concentrate on, right? And they know that most vintage sports cards, if they're real and they're good condition, have already been graded, or they're going to be graded. So they're talking about a high volume of modern cards. Well, if you take that into consideration, the majority of the modern cards that people want to collect are either autographed or have some sort of patch jersey card attached to them, right? The other thing is that this is only for people in the U.S. at this time. So it's definitely a limited program. It doesn't really change much, in my opinion, because of how limited it is. But there's so many ways to get around it. If you could get your fake card through another grading company that they'll accept, or put it in a lot, or put it in a set, you're going to get it through their system because they're not going to check it, right? There's a lot of loopholes in this whole system, right? And again, what happens to the authenticator, right? They confirm they received it, and they go through a multi-point inspection. Again, multi-point doesn't mean crap. Then they'll put it in some sort of tamper-proof, crappy package that showed you that everyone's going to just throw away. So, hey, I wrote a whole episode about how terrible sports cards are for the environment because we like to put tons of packaging around 2 cards. Now eBay's creating all this extra packaging to authenticate a card that everyone's just going to throw away. Congratulations, eBay. You just ruined our environment. Thanks. Awesome job. All right. So who's going to do this authentication, right? Well, lo and behold, it's CSG, right? So that was the big buzz everyone was talking about, like it was a good thing. CSG, right? And I'm not a real big fan of any grader, right? I'm skeptical about all of them because they all have their issues. But the thing that I keep hearing over and over is that CSG has older Beckett graders, and that's why they're legitimate. Like they've got these Beckett guys who have been around the block and they know what they're doing. Well, I'm going to tell you, if that's what we're going to hang our hat on, we've got lots and lots to be scared of. And again, here's the real kicker: it's going to take time to get the card there, and they're going to inspect it within 2 to 3, 2 business days, and then once complete, the item is sent to you with 4-day shipping. So 2 to get there, 2 to do, 4 to ship you. So let's say 8 days, maybe. Okay, I bought some shoes on eBay through their Authenticator program. It took me 4 months because they were backed up with shoes. What's going to happen when they get these millions of cards shipped to them? They're going to get swamped and they're going to get backed up. And my God, trying to sell a raw card on eBay is going to be like, like especially if it's something that you're banking on, playoffs or some other performance to drive value. Good luck, because by the time the card gets to the person, and if they lost a game or something, you're getting a refund. And there's a way to get a refund in this program as well. So at least that's there, good or bad. I know they've tightened it down a little bit, but still, it's not great. Um, Again, signature, there's good things about the shipping part. It seems like they're making that part pretty easy. And also, when you return it, you have to send it back, and they ensure that the card has been tampered with. So that's the only part I really like. I actually like the middleman on high dollar returns. If I was going to say anything, eBay should say, look, you ship cards back and forth. And if there's a dispute, it goes to a third party or something like that. I think that would actually be a good service, but this is not it, because they're relying on CSG, and I don't care who CSG says they have from Beckett. They've not really been around the block long enough to know all the shenanigans that's happening in this hobby, and that's happened for decades and decades. And that is what I'm going to talk about, is why I think the flood of fakes are going to come, right? All right, so the other thing too is that who will pay for this, right? And they say multiple times that will I be charged a fee? No, but for a limited time we're going to pay for it. Yeah, that's going to be a pretty limited time, I would assume. All right, so let's go on why this is such a crap fest right here for everyone. Well, let's start with the premise of sort of why they're doing this, and it's the idea that sports cards are more like art than high risk collectibles that are speculative, right? And that is what you're seeing, a lot of people say. In fact, Brent from PWCC said it in his video. A lot of people are saying this, that high dollar art collectors are getting into baseball cards, and they should be similarly treated like art, and that they're many pieces of art to put on your wall. Okay, all right. Well, how does the art world deal with fakes, right? Because that's a huge issue, right, in the art world. Well, look at what's happening over in the art world. They have, Sothebys, which has some of the, I would say probably the most sophisticated forgery detection unit and that built that you can get in collectible hobby like art. They've got a whole director of scientific research that uses really, really advanced equipment that you can see here to try to detect forgeries, right? Because these paintings are worth millions of dollars, right? And so they built this whole scientific unit to prevent forgery, right? And so here's a nice article about fakes and forgeries, right, from Sothebys. Okay, wow, they seem like they take it pretty seriously. Well, and this is the art world, which is what everyone thinks the sports cards are going to turn into. And what eBay is trying to prevent is all these fakes and forgeries from getting into the market, because we don't want those $1 million LeBron James cards to be fake. Well, what happened to Sotheby's? Oh, look at this. Article after article after article about Sotheby's failing to detect fraud. With all this, scientific, equipment and people dedicated, they miss millions and millions of dollars of fakes. And this is people trying really, really hard. Well, what about sports cards? What are we doing to prevent fakes from getting the hobby? Well, hey, look at our guys. Hey, here's BGS and their loop of doom or whatever they're using to figure out what the card is, right? Ooh, we use a camera and a light. Okay, well, that's not as good as what Sotheby's is doing. Okay, so Art World 1, Card World 0, I guess, on that. Well, what's CSG doing? Because, they're supposed to be the experts at this. Okay. Well, they receive cards. They verify and they authenticate with some green light. Okay. That's all they really show is They use a green light and then they grade it. Okay, that every card, the aid of advanced technology that they won't show us, because I'm sure if they had great advanced technology, I'm sure they would do that. So yeah, this is not great. Again, and it's not a shock. Okay, I know how graders grade. I talk to graders. If you don't think hobbyists can talk to graders, then you're crazy. They go to shows. They're set up all the time. I talk to graders. How does the grading process work? And this is why I tell people all the time is graders sometimes spend less than 30 seconds grading a card. You think they're really finding that all the forgeries and fakes are out there by looking at cards for 30 seconds? They're not. And the proof's in the pudding. The proof is out there. Everywhere you look, the fakes and forgeries are happening. And to think that CSG is going to stop this from happening, no. What they're going to do is they're going to legitimize these fakes and forgeries, because as soon as they say it's real, good luck trying to get your refunds. They're going to fight it tooth and nail. Good luck, fighting it when they sell it on eBay, because we've seen this in the past, right? So here's some examples of our buddies at BGS, right? Or the infamous LeBron James patch that Ken Golden pulled off his auction because the patch was in question, because hey, you can just do a photo search and look at what the card looked like at one time in history, and lo and behold, the patches had changed. And did BGS do any of that homework? No. Do you think CSG, when they get their millions of cards shipped to them, they're going to be doing photo matching, documenting the last 5 sales of that card before they tell you it's real or fake or not? No, they're not going to do any of that. They're going to look at corners and edges and say, yeah, this card looks like it hasn't been, cut in half. That's about all we can tell you. They're not going to do any of that. They're going to do that, but they're not going to do any of the real stuff you need to do to authenticate these kind of cards, right? And so, and this is the weasel way this hobby works, right? I determined the card did not meet our standards, but it doesn't mean it's fake. It doesn't mean that it, isn't real, right? And then you get into other issues. Here's the most infamous, BGS card I think in the world, and this is the, trimmed SP Authentic Brady card where like half his foot was cut off, right? And you can clearly see the card's been trimmed, but did BGS go and look and photo match the this card because it's serial numbered and they can actually look at the history of the card to see if it's been altered? No, that would take more than the 30 seconds they're allowed to look at cards to grade. And even these high-end cards that you would think they would take more time, no, I don't really think they do that much more. Maybe they take a little bit longer just to verify, but they're not photo matching. They're not going to the last 5 sales they can track to see if this card's been altered, and they don't do any of that. And it's on and on. And how complex is it going to get? Well, man, if you go to Blowout Forums, you'll see, and again, I posted this thread in a previous video, but look at what's fake out there. You got star rubies. You've got a lot of the cards that are fake in the hobby. Platinum medallions, right? And I'm going to go down the list, and you'll see there's just as many PSA as BGS cards, but BGS is hit pretty often. Precious metal gems fake. You go down, how many of the, you look at the trimmed, precious metal gem Jordan, right? That, is actually a fake card that SGC gave, that it was real. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Once these experienced trimmers and these guys who really understand how to get cards through these, I call them like weak player graders, it's going to be open the floodgates, right? And this is my warning, that by doing something like this, you're giving another form, another way for these kind of fake cards to get onto the marketplace. Because if I was one of these, forgers that's making art, making currency, something that people have spent millions and millions of dollars building scientific departments to catch you. Then I've got CSG and BGS with their magnifying loops and cameras and lights. Who am I going to fool easier, right? Making a Kobe Bryant fake card or making a Picasso, right? Which one can I actually pull off easier, right? And you can just see through here how many cards and sets have been faked over the years. And most of these are considered modern or 90s cards that to me are still modern, but they're not vintage like, Babe Ruth cards. These are like cards you wouldn't expect, right? And it gets, look at this. Trim cards on the Blowout Forum. This is just a list. Look at all the BGS Steph Curry cards that's been proven, serial numbered. They have photo evidence of trimming, right? And then, here's another good one. This is in a golden auction as well, where they have this BGS, PMG Jordan, where it says right in the auction is, although not referenced on the grading label, it should be noted that the card has been trimmed. It's still in a PGS 95 holder. But now the card has been outed so many times it's being trimmed, it's actually labeled in an auction in a BGS holder as trimmed. And we think CSG and this eBay program is going to prevent this. They're going to make it easier to do this. They're going to go after the weak players. They're going to bombard these guys with these kind of cards to get them through this authentication process, legitimize them, and pin them on the market. And it's going to get worse. That's what's going to happen, guys. And I hate it. I hate that this is what's going to happen because they're going to, legitimize these cards. And it happens in the art world. Sothebys has a big, history in other, auction houses of, getting greedy, putting things in the auction, saying they're real, and finding out later they're fake. Now we're going to see it in the card world because I think this eBay process is going to be so easy to fool because they're not grading the cards. Another thing is, CSG is not grading the cards. They're not putting them in a holder. They're just saying that they're authentic, And I just think that this process is going to generate a lot of issues for the hobby because the things that are going to be valuable in the future are the rare stuff. The rare stuff is going to get faked, and that stuff is going to kill the value in the market. And I'm going to leave you with this question is, why do we think that the card market was so stagnant for all those years compared to art, when art was just going through the roof? And the reason I come up with this is that the people with a lot of money weren't confident in the market to be real, to not have fakes, to not have bad players messing with what's going on. And that's, to me, is what depressed the values, is that it's unregulated. The police and the FBI don't give a crap about this market. They let people con you, rip you off, and it's very hard to get anyone to pay attention to you. Where in the art world, when somebody gets ripped off in that world, it's taken very seriously. They have lots of ways to detect it, and even if they pull off a con, they eventually get caught a lot of times. So I feel like the two worlds are not alike. They don't behave anything similarly, and if you con somebody in that world for a lot of money, chances are bad things are going to happen to you. In the sports card world, if you're Ken Golden, you can just keep selling cards forever. No matter how bad you've behaved in the past, doesn't matter. So this is just a warning, guys. I really hope that CSG takes it upon themselves to do more homework. And if a card comes in, like a LeBron James, a PMG, something worth a lot of money, that they go back and do something more than just look at the card's edges and surface and corners and say, yep, it's real. Because what we need in the hobby is for a true documentation of this card's history. The last 5 or 10 sales, the very first time this card ever sold. Some sort of research to prove this card hasn't been altered over the years. That's what's really needed, not this surface, barely spending 30 seconds looking at a card. That's not what these high-end cards need. We need something better. The hobby needs to be better. We need to push for change. I know it's going to slow down the process, but if a card's worth $50,000, $20,000, I think it's worth waiting 2 or 3 days for a card to get graded, making sure that everything is okay, going back and looking at every bit of evidence we can to make sure the card isn't altered. That's what we really want. So that's what I'm going to end with, you guys. Hopefully you see my point, and I'll see you next time on Cards and Comics. Bye.